Good evening. I'd like to call everybody to our meeting, our regular meeting of June 10th, 2020. Would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Sue, could we please have a reiteration of the executive session motions?
Yes, the board met in executive session to discuss collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of Civil Service Law.
Thank you. So believe it or not, this is our last board meeting of this school year, instructional year, of this very unusual year that is ending in a much different way than we ever predicted or when we started. So anyhow, I just wanted to take a couple of moments. I had written a letter to the community last week, and I know from interactions with some members of the community, not everybody gets our emails, and so I just wanted to take a moment to have the chance to read what I wrote. So I wrote, "Dear community, as I stood in Wolf Lane Park at the vigil to honor the brutal murder of George Floyd on Monday night, I was overcome with so many emotions. Surrounded by board members and students, I felt the anguish that this pandemic and the raw emotions George Floyd's death has reinvigorated is causing all of us. I also felt such pride for our Pelham community. I was reminded of the amazing youth leaders who we have in our midst. How amazing that our students pulled together such a loving and peaceful community vigil in less than a day. As I looked around and I felt the power and love of community, the power and love of our community. Many of you know that one of the district's main strategic goals is to create a community of cultural competence. By aligning our recruitment, hiring, and training practices to build a more diverse and culturally proficient staff and engaging in the cohort model of cultural proficiency training, we have emphasized these values with our teachers, administrators, and staff. We have also focused on student-centered initiatives, which include the Building Bridges program and diversity book bags in our elementary schools, and the middle school anti-bullying week and no place for hate program. There are just a few of the many examples where this work is happening throughout the district in a meaningful way. George Floyd's brutal killing serves as yet another reminder that the work of cultural proficiency is difficult and involves a willingness to have the difficult discussions involved in creating a more culturally competent environment. The work is messy at times and it can leave people feeling vulnerable. It's also an ongoing process. While our board is proud of the district for making these important efforts a priority, we know that our work has just begun. We need to use the momentum of the past week to serve as a catalyst, to do a better job of listening to the voices of people who feel marginalized, to continue to have discussions about racial inequities in our homes and at school, to work as a community within and beyond the school walls, and to harness the energy we are feeling now to make lasting and sustainable changes to racial injustices in our world. During the most challenging of times, Pelham always demonstrates its ability to rally together as one, to support our neighbors, and when we join together, we show that we can make quite an impact. Now should be no different. And I just wanted to share that letter again, just to reiterate the fact that this is a major priority for our school district, but we are not foolish. We know this is a process. We know the work is just beginning. We're just at the tip of the iceberg. And it's, when we talked about the strategic plan and its development, I felt, Dr. Champ can tell you, I called her the next day after one of our work sessions and I said, I've never felt so passionate that our work can't really happen unless we have our community involved. And I started brainstorming a million different ways that we could, this work could bleed beyond the school walls and really enter the community, and that we can only do so much if we don't have the community's partnership. And I just think that this is such a great example of that. So anyhow, I just wanted to take a couple minutes for that. Let me go to our next item. I believe it's our superintendent's update. No, hold on one second. My agenda froze on me. Okay, so it's the approval of the minutes, section 3. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes of the May 27th meeting?
So moved.
Thanks, John.
Second.
Second.
Thanks, Sue. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. And the next is section 4, administrative and committee reports. 4.1 is superintendent's report. Dr. Champ. I think you're on mute, Dr. Champ.
There we go. Thank you, Jessica. I will piggyback off your comments. And, just to say this, certainly what's going on in the greater world has, it's definitely, there's a lot of, it's raised a lot of discussion, a lot of really important discussions here in Pelham, as everywhere else. So it's been really great. A number of our schools have put together some parent workshops and focus groups, conversations. The high school has been meeting with students regularly. They'll be having their 3rd discussion session this Friday, really trying to give people an opportunity to speak and to share and to process and for voices to be heard. So that's really exciting. I had the opportunity right before this call to meet with a number of alumni who are working with Pelham Together and Bridges of Pelham to put together an event that I think folks will start hearing about very soon, to really make sure that as a community that the conversation there's an honest conversation that's moving forward. And I really appreciated their perspectives as alumni who have gone out from our schools and come back to their community, and lessons learned in hindsight, and their goal in not coming at this work in an adversarial way, but coming at it in a genuine, honest way, really understanding the big picture that this is all of us together. It's not one entity that's fully responsible or for the problems that we're all facing, but that as a community, as a school system, that it's important for us to come together and have those honest conversations and work for a better future. So it was really an invigorating conversation. I don't want to get in front of them on their PR, so I'm not going to say what it is, but I'm sure that will be hitting social media shortly. So just a couple other items I wanted to bring before the board as part of my report tonight. I'll start with one. As you see tonight on the agenda, we are asking for reapproval of the draft of the calendar. A couple reasons for that, really, and it's not the final version, I should say that. We did approve a version back earlier in the spring. The version tonight that's before the board is a result of an agreement reached with the teachers to allow us to do our professional development days before Labor Day this coming school year. So you see on that calendar 2 superintendent's conference days on September 2nd and 3rd. That's Wednesday, Thursday before Labor Day, which would enable us to start students right after Labor Day on that Tuesday for school. So we're happy to be able to make that change. We wanted to get that calendar before the community so that our parents in particular can plan accordingly for summer schedules. And also on the calendar, another item you will see is, and this came really from student voice. Last fall, all the way last October, I received an email from one of our 5th graders from Braden at
4th grader.
4th grader.
Yeah, even
Braden, I'm trying to, is it Colonial?
Clark.
No, I'm looking for the
Colonial.
school. Colonial, thank you.
Colonial.
4th grader Braden at Colonial, requesting that the board consider renaming Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples Day, based on the history he was learning in his class and his desire to see a more just celebration of that day. So, we've done a bit of research. Certainly, New York State does still recognize Columbus Day, but in wanting to honor the issues that Braden brought to light about the people who were harmed at that point in history, we want to do what we've seen other districts move to do, and I think it's important to do it now, is to add Indigenous Peoples Day to the calendar out of recognition for that. It's a step hopefully in the right direction, and I definitely want to thank Braden for bringing this to my attention, to Ms. DiDomenico's attention, And so we're recommending to the board tonight that we add that to the calendar for the coming year. Indigenous Peoples Day. So that is the other important change you will see on the calendar. We will be bringing the calendar back probably one more time over the summer because there are a couple items still not on there. We have not put in our PLC late start dates, or there's a couple other items that may be impacted by ongoing negotiations. So once those are resolved, we'll bring that back to the board one more time. But again, to allow for planning for the summer and to move forward on Braden's request, we're definitely bringing the calendar forward tonight. So Braden, thank you for that. I hope you're watching. And I hope you remember, it was way back in October when he emailed me of last year. So I don't forget good ideas. Thank you for bringing that to our attention, Braden. It's a great job on that. Also tonight, a couple of other updates. It's never a dull moment. All you have to wait is for a Friday night or a Sunday afternoon, and the governor will make a new executive order that gives us our work for the coming week. So my other items relate to that. As everyone knows, the governor's executive order around the votes extended the deadline. So we are currently in the process of collecting votes. The drop box is no longer accessible per the executive order. 5 o'clock yesterday, 5 o'clock yesterday was the last time for the in-person drop box. If anyone is still looking to submit their ballots, they should please put them in the mail. We'll be receiving those through 5 o'clock on June 16th, and then we will begin our ballot count. We've already received quite a few, almost 2,000 ballots have come in at this point in time. We also received new guidance on graduation. So that certainly has caused Mrs. Clark and I to go back and to revisit options that might be available. I know she's putting out an email to the parents today. I'm not sure if that's gone out yet or not, but just as a quick review on that, just after we had announced our drive-in graduation plans last Friday, the governor gave an executive order that allowed for in-person graduations up to 150 people with social distancing. And looking through logistics of that plan, the only viable plan that we really could come up with was to, given staffing, given space, given the restrictions that we're under, was to split the class in half and use one of our fields, ideally Glover Field, because of the ability to control the facility and to provide for the social distancing and to make sure that the event was handled safely. To split the class in half and to have them on the field was the option that we came up with that would be allowed under the governor's executive order. Being that we'd have to split the class in half, that certainly would mean 2 ceremonies, so the class could not graduate together and there'd be no audience in that option. We presented the options to the students and put it up for a vote. And by a vote of 56%, the students have decided they want to continue forward with a drive-in option, which again would provide for all of them to be together and for their families to be present with them. So we are moving forward with that option at this time and continuing to nail down plans for that. And you will see on tonight's agenda approval resolutions requesting the board to authorize us permission to enter into those contracts to secure SUNY Purchase as the location and a vendor to handle the audio visual. We did consider a third option that was raised by students. And as we looked at the details of that, we really unfortunately got to the point where the staffing and management of 2 large events on our properties was just beyond what we were capable of doing. So although we appreciate the creativity and the thought behind that, we're not able to offer that as a viable option, unfortunately. So, but we are excited to be moving forward with a plan. We're really excited that it's going to be on graduation day. So what was originally announced back in the beginning of the year, we're able to replicate that. So we'll continue to work through plans, hoping that the guidance gives us a little bit more freedom as June 27th gets a little bit closer. So we're looking forward to that. And thanks to all the senior parents and the senior advisors and community that have rallied to create some really exciting senior events to make this as special as possible for our kids. So please continue to show your school spirit and your love for them as we continue between now and June 27th. Finally, reopening. That's the other big ticket item on our agenda. So we last week began administrative meetings, an oversight committee to begin our planning around reopening. So we've set up a district committee, administrative committee, and a number of subgroups that are also starting to meet. And they range the various areas from health and safety, operations, logistics, educational plan, social emotional wellness, scheduling, really to communication. So it's about 9 or 10 different areas that we're dividing into subgroups so that we can get some working groups on specific items. So we will be launching out a survey to the community likely tomorrow, open-ended thought exchange, looking for really just all thoughts, not just on the distance learning plan, but on every aspect related to reopening, because we're really hoping to work collaboratively within the district and with our stakeholders in the community to provide a level of comfort that we're being able to put in reasoned, science-based measures, safety protocols, in the hopes of returning to school as best we can, as soon as we can, as safely as we can, and continue to provide educational program for our students, regardless of what happens. We don't know what's going to happen, and we know we're going to need to be flexible. So we've got, at the moment, more questions than answers, but we're going to put our heads together and move forward with that. So we will also likely be looking for some parent involvement in those work groups. So at the moment, I would say if you're interested in that, please reach out to your principals. We'll be sending more information out about how to get involved in that way as well. So look for additional communications on that. And as those plans develop, we'll be sure to communicate those out as well. And that's all I have for my report tonight.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Still a lot more questions than answers, but it seems like we have more clarity than we did at the last meeting.
Yes.
So it's progress.
Yes.
Okay, so the next is Board of Education Committee reports. Do we have any committee updates? I don't believe so. Okay. 4.3, Assistant Superintendent's update on authentic learning. Dr. Garcia.
Great. Well, good evening, everyone. Just a few note of some events which have occurred and one that's occurring tomorrow night. So some of you may have participated in this. This was really great experience on Monday afternoon was the Scene Day celebration in conjunction with the Junior League and the PELHAM Science Department. And hopefully you got to see a little piece of it between students launching rockets on Glover within safe social distancing, or having alumni come back and talk about their experiences in college, and then experts in the field of physics and astronomy. It was fascinating. It concluded with I think the movie October Sky at the end. And we just want to thank the entire department in science and Dr. Callahan and the Junior League really for supporting yet another lively event and really a memorable event for our community. And this was the second during this COVID-19 break that we've had in traditional schooling. So again, thank you for really a great celebration of STEAM for our kids and community. Now tomorrow night on the humanities side is our third annual PELHAM Storytellers Celebration. That will be tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The evening is a celebration which will include public recognition of high school commended writers and the creative writing contest winners. It's going to showcase their work. There'll be a guest speaker, Jordan Salama, the alumni, will be coming back and share his words of wisdom with our students. There will also be about a 30-minute open mic for commended writers to kind of share any other thoughts they may have and be encouraged to read short excerpts of their work. So we're looking forward to that as well. And we definitely want to thank the English department in the high school, but particularly also Maria Thompson for her diligence in really putting this event together. So we're all looking forward to that. And as you know, we are in the hiring season. So we do have some positions which we are currently filling. And I mentioned that last week as well, or 2 weeks ago. And the administrators have really done a good job in this difficult environment, still finding the best highly qualified candidates we can, and they will continue doing that over the next few weeks. And then lastly, I know that that Dr. Champ mentioned this at the last board meeting about our desire to continue to provide some resources and supporting learning during the distance learning period after the traditional school day ends on June 17th. So we do plan on providing elementary distance learning posts from June 18th and 19th through June 22nd through 26th. So through the 26th, for those 7 school days, we plan on having some resources available for our students, and that will be designed by teachers in our school district for that time. We're still in discussions about how it's going to be posted or where it's going to be posted, but we'll communicate to parents about where that will be. And also, we're looking to create some summer resources available also for the elementary students, which would last roughly through beginning of probably June 29th, that last week in June, through the first week in August. Logistics, we're still playing with it. We have teachers who are going to be designing some experiences, but also some online resources. One thing which is kind of challenging too is that when we work with our partners at BOCES or the RIC, we hope to have certain online resources ready for that for our kids, but some of that is contingent upon school budgets passing, and they're just kind of waiting for the green light before they can provide support for certain resources. So we'd like to finalize that hopefully by the end of this week, but we'll put some notification in terms of what that could look like. 2 things, again, the learning experiences that would happen from the 18th of June to the 26th, and then what type of resources will be available online for families from really the first month of the summer, at least June 29th through August 7th. So also, lastly, I know that I mentioned this at the last board meeting, but we know that the K-5 teachers are currently holding their parent-teacher conversations with the homes of their children, and we just want to thank everyone in the community for making those experiences, I think, fruitful for all the participants, and thanking the teachers for their work communicating end-of-year expectations, work, progress, growth over the school year, and preparing for the next school year. So we want to thank everyone involved with that. So that's my report for this evening.
Thanks, Steve. Those, for me personally, those conferences worked really nicely, and it sort of gave me another sense of another option for doing conferences for parents maybe who can't make it
in the future.
Yeah. Then calling in, it just seemed so personal, even though we weren't together. So
yeah, we were happy that
I know we spent a lot of time preparing for that.
Yeah, and we're happy that the teachers kind of saw that as, so that was very important. Especially at the end of the year, that those personal connections with the home were definitely made, and that continues this week. And I've heard some positive, definitely some positive feedback about it. So
it was, for me personally, it was a very nice touchstone to have at the end of the year, some closure to a strange back half of the year.
Yes.
So okay, thank you so much. So 4.4 is Assistant Superintendent's update on the whole child. Ms. Chung.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I have a couple of reports from our counseling and our special education office. Our high school counselors have been holding virtual drop-ins on different days for different grade levels. So I hope the students have been taking advantage of them. Tuesdays for sophomores, Wednesday for juniors, Thursdays for seniors, and Fridays for freshmen. So hopefully they have been doing that, and we still will be continuing until next week. In terms of the half-day BOCES career and tech education for next year, we currently have 14 students who will be attending. 11 of them are returning students from this year. They'll be finishing up next year, and then we have 4 new students that'll be starting in the fall. So that's exciting. In terms of special education, we're finishing up all of our annual review meetings by next week. Because our schedule had been kind of extended a little bit, all of the documents should be sent home hopefully by early July, but you'll definitely receive them by mid-July at the latest. And as we are looking at summer, I know that this whole experience has been very challenging for many of our families. And one of the things that our clinicians are doing right now is we're trying to put together some resources to address the students' well-being, and we're going to try to put them together for students and parents to access over the summer. So we'll make sure to send that out to parents before end of the school year next week. So that's it from me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks so much. 4.5, Assistant Superintendent's update on finance and facilities. Mr. Ricky.
Hi, good evening, and thank you. Just a couple of items here this evening. This past week, our external auditors started to do some of their initial field work, which they actually normally come out for, but they did in their office this time in preparation for the year-end audit. So we're answering lots of questions, and we expect them to come back out the second week in July to do the final year-end audit. On this evening's agenda, there is a settlement with our transportation company to take care of a settlement that had to do with the closure period that we've had to deal with here from March 13th to the end of this school year. What we've also been able to do, though, in working with our consortium of schools, because we are part of a larger BOCES consortium with Bronxville, Eastchester, Pelham, and Tuckahoe. We call ourselves BEPT. This is a settlement agreed to by all those districts. It gives us a 3-year extension with our transportation company at CPI, which is in the transportation world is certainly very favorable. And it also takes care of any ambiguity that existed this time with the closure of schools, and takes it and has specific recourses that will happen if school happens to be closed next year for specific periods of time. So it's very much spelled out. We're asking the board to approve an agreement with Great American Insurance Company for student accident insurance. This was part of an RFP that was put out by NYBEST or NYBEST, which is a district-run consortium for insurances. So it's a program that's advantageous. We do provide student accident insurance, and again, this was in participating in this consortium, we're able to again leverage greater savings working in with one voice. We are working on the graduation agreements with SUNY Purchase and with Untouchable Events, and we're asking the board for permission to allow Dr. Champ to enter agreement for those agreements this evening. A little bit of update on our capital projects. At Hutchinson, they're continuing the waterproofing. The utilities work is being done in the utility trenches. If you've driven by it, you've seen that the concrete floor has been poured for the gymnasium. Before they laid it out, it kind of had a blue liner on it. It looked like a big swimming pool, but it's a nice size gym there, and that's been taken care of. And outside of the contractor trying to cut the concrete with expansion seams at 6:30 in the morning, the day after it was poured, everything seems to be going okay. And we reminded our contractors of the working hours and our neighbors as well. And we were grateful for our neighbors sharing that information so that we can remind our contractors as well. Work has begun at the high school for the masonry work at the high school. You've probably seen the lift walking around or rolling around the school and taking out different sections of rock and doing some repointing. By my office, they bought a piece of fence yesterday when the lift hit that fence, but the contractor and the construction manager are well aware of it, and that will be taken care of as part of their work. The roofing contractor for the roof on the annex has begun to mobilize as well. You'll see, if you drive by, you'll see the fencing and some of that scaffolding setup work has been dropped off this week. And that vendor as well has been reminded of the working hours, that no work is to begin before 8 o'clock and to be good, and we want to be good neighbors. And Frank Arturi, who was our construction manager representative for Triton Construction, and I had a conversation this morning, and Frank has already dealt with the contractors and expressed that it's very important that they follow by those rules that we have here. The Glover complex is moving along very nicely. We're working on some punch list items. We expect to have the facility open by July the 1st. Shared with the board some pictures that we had for the track facility that was cleaned. The lines expect to be repainted this weekend, Friday and Saturday. We're doing some work on the driveway as well, some repaving in the driveway area. The lines are getting striped. We're doing some fencing. And there's also some work on the field around the pitcher's mound that needed some work. So those are all of those types of items that we're working on. And again, our target date to have that facility open is July 1st. And we're working with Town Recreation as far as coordinating use of the tennis courts and those areas as well. And when we know exactly where we are with our phases and our ability to have sporting events, we know certain passive sports are allowed. We certainly want the facility to be taken advantage of by our residents. Business office is also preparing for the bond anticipation notes that we're going to be going out for in early July. So we're working with capital market advisors. And then with Dr. Champ, we're working on the health and safety and logistics committees for the fall reopening to try to prepare for that. And lastly, we have an item from McClellan Sotheby's this evening for a donation of $1,200, a very generous donation for the class of 2020. Thank you.
Thank you. So this brings us to section 5, financial reports and motions. I'd like to take a consent for 5.
Can I have a question?
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. I took me a while to get my thing working here. Jim, when do they expect to start the steel at Hutch?
So we expect the steel to begin before the end of June. So they're working on the utilities. We thought it may be starting about mid-June, but with the utility work and the trenches, they're now expecting it before June is out. The steel will start, and that would probably take place. I think my last item I saw from Kevin Sawyer, that's probably about a 3-month process for the steel.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so now we'll move on to section 5, financial reports and motions. I'd like to take a consent of 5.1 through 5.12. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Vin.
Second.
Thanks, Leah. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, I'll take 5.13, motion to accept donation on its own. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Sue.
Second.
Thanks, Leah. So this is the donation that Mr. Ricky just mentioned. Be it resolved that we accept the donation of $1,200 to PELHAM Memorial School for monetary awards for the 2020 graduating class, and that gratitude be bestowed upon its donor, McClellan Sotheby's International Realty. That's very kind and generous, and they're always so generous to our scholarships and to our schools. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, we're moving on to section 6, superintendent's personnel recommendations. I'll take a consent of 6.1 and 6.2. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thanks, Sue and Jess. Anything we should know?
Yes, I'm
Specifics?
sorry. I just had to find my button. I apologize.
I think we're all having trouble getting off.
It's crazy. Yeah, so we have 2 new teachers, which we are appointing based on, one is due to the retirement of Nancy Baird, and the other one is retirement of Pat Sadalich. So that is K-5 Art and also the middle school technology program. So it's Mary Preston in art and Sarah Williamson in technology, and we look forward to them joining our team.
Great. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 7, we have pupil personnel services. We have Schedule D. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Eileen, and I didn't hear who the second was. Oh,
Vinny.
Dawn. Vinny. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Section 8 is new business. Do we have any new business? Okay. Section 9, communications and comments from the public. I forgot to mention that in my opening comments, but I know it's in the meeting notice, but I received, which I wasn't sure if it was for public comment or not, but I'm going to read it in this section. It was a petition to curb racist incidents and potential police escalation in Pelham schools. It was written by student Nick Liegi and signed by a number of former students. So the letter was written and it said, to Pelham Superintendent Dr. Cheryl Champ, Pelham School Board President Jessica DiDomenico, and members of the Pelham School Board. We, the undersigned students and alumni of Pelham Schools, feel that in light of recent events, particularly given the emphasis which Pelham Schools has claimed to put on the cultural competence plank of the strategic plan, the district should take action to work to eliminate racist incidents, casual racism, and the potential for law enforcement escalation. The undersigned feel that the district should make the following changes. 1, end the regular building walkthroughs of law enforcement during school hours, given that such walkthroughs lead to the potential for unnecessary escalation and that studies show such a presence can have a negative impact on student performance, particularly on minority student Assemblies discussing important issues affecting our society and school should be held once per quarter at the high school and middle school level and once per trimester at the rather than just being held in events as they are now. 3, the entire faculty and staff of the district, including members of the Board of Education and senior administrative officials, should be put through anti-bias and anti-racism trainings to ensure the covert biases of the faculty and staff are as limited as possible. The signatories include over 100 current and former Pelham students, many of whom are elected leaders of their respective grades and clubs and are political activists at a local level. We expect additional signatories over the coming days and will continue to update this list. Signed. And I apologize in advance because I don't know all of the students' families, so I'm probably not going to pronounce the names properly. Anna Champagnier Bowen, Daniel Bernstein, Katie Heaney, Nell Plunkett, Ella S., Bernadette Russo, Alexis Cornacchio, John Morell, Jack Doherty, Emma Van Prague, Izzy Anderson, Morgan Sample, Nicholas Liegi, Sophia Leung, Lucia Lavalley, Julia Rosenberg, Naya Hasseley, Erin Jin, Catherine Alexander, Maya Spongeberg, Emma Kuntz, Olivia Min, Nadine Lisang, Rachel Lief, Brianna Connolly, Annika Jawanda, Rebecca Jacobson, Elizabeth Zusen, Eliza Bertone, Julia Lauman, Teddy D'Angelo, Claire Van Prague, Robbie Shepard, Charlotte Woods, Kate Doherty, Brett Bober, Hannah McFarland, Caroline Spana, Stevie Christina, Risa Schloyer, Christina Gorey, Honor Durham, Tess Darrow, Violet Massey Veriker, Vanessa Rosado, Malia McClellan, Giovanna Vitali, Maddie Mullaney, Jayan Schloyer, Quincy Stern, Grace Culkin, Eva Perez, Ella Burns, Austin Kelly, Asher Lal, Haley Wall, Lucas Glist, Emily Nakayama, Matthias Spongeberg, Michael Sample, Greta Fear, Alyssa Catalanoto, Georgia Connolly, Olivia Pollock, Lauren Holly, Oliver Krulak, Peyton Reese, Zoe Winburn, Lila Caminetti, Elizabeth Murray, Michael Salama, Jack Tersh, Natalie Purcell, I'm going to pronounce Afe Jeffries, Georgia Gramsci, Mia Bashi, Andrew Teresiano, Andrew Kelly, Johannes Ramses, M. Riel, Jillian Harrison, Alyssa Persia, Lily Childs, Jack Finnegan, JD, Jack Leonard, Grace Anderson, Julia O'Neill, Daniela DeYoung, Lucy Dolan, Aiden DeMore, Justin O'Byrne, Joe Puchala, Allison Feldman, Jacob Campo, Alexandra Parco, Vikram Jalapali, Nicolette Nisi, Adriana Cartadanati, Juan Carlos Matos, Quinn Reese, and Jane Falvey. So I just wanted to include that in the record. And finally, Eileen.
Madam President, would you entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, John. On favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
See you next year.
Good night.
Well, we still have one more meeting.
Thank you. Have a